Mom revealed the shocking truth. My wife's cheating with my best friend transformed my life forever. Jake felt the world spinning out of control, urgency thrumming through his veins like a caffeine rush. The warmth of steaming lattes and the whirring of the coffee grinder had filled his shop with comfort, but now it felt suffocating. His mother's face, lined with worry, echoed the storm brewing inside him. "Sarah, she's been with Mark," she uttered, voice trembling as she dropped the bombshell, every word striking Jake like a lightning bolt. His wife, the love of his life, tangled with his best friend, his heart shattered into unrecognizable pieces. In that small Midwestern town, where families thrived on fried fish dinners and Sunday church services, Jake had built a life he thought was solid, a life infused with hard work at his coffee shop, warmth from his wife, and loyalty to Mark, a war veteran weathered by battles both seen and unseen. But now, those ideals twisted into a haze of disbelief, enveloping him in a rage that clawed at his insides. As he poured another latte, the steam curled like whispers of betrayal. The familiar sounds of the shop felt foreign. How could Sarah and Mark throw away the foundations of friendship? Each customer's smile reminded him of the community's expectations: trust, loyalty, family. They had stood together, unwavering, through thick and thin. And yet, here he was, teetering on the brink of devastation. Later that night, Jake confronted Sarah and Mark. The tension crackled in the air, as raw as the pain in his heart. The room felt suffocating, every second stretched like eternity. "Do you even understand what you've done?" he choked, searching their eyes for remorse. Instead, he found guilt flickering like candlelight, barely holding on against the weight of reality. The town festival approached, a bustling backdrop of anticipation and hope. Bright tents adorned the park, laughter bubbling like a fresh brew. Maybe, just maybe, this could be a chance for reconciliation. But as they gathered amidst the cotton candy and games, the illusion shattered. Jake felt the anger boiling within, heat rising to his cheeks as he eyed Sarah and Mark whispering together, oblivious to the festivities. "Can you believe them?" an old man muttered to his wife, shaking his head in disappointment. A ripple of gossip began to spread, the environment suddenly electric and alive with judgment. Jake found himself standing at the center of it all, neighbors watching with rapt attention, expectations weighing heavily on his shoulders. He felt like a boxer ready to fight, but inside, he was a fragile shell. "This isn't just about sport, this is life," he shouted, gripping the excesses of emotion. "What does loyalty mean anymore? Is love just a game?" The crowd shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting between him and the couple, judging his stance, questioning the nature of right and wrong. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Just then, a whisper sliced through the crowd, reinforcing his doubts, and Jake's heart pounded like a drum. What would he choose, vengeance or forgiveness? Emotions twisted painfully, he felt the tightness in his chest and the sting behind his eyes. The weight of a community witnessing his agony pressed on him like a vice. Jake's gaze shifted across the anxious crowd. The resolution wasn't just about what happened next, it was the heart of what it meant to be human. In the thrumming heartbeat of that moment, he realized his decision could redefine not only their futures but transform the essence of forgiveness within his small town. The stakes had never felt higher, and all eyes were on him, waiting to see if he would break bonds or try to mend them. What would happen next? Jake stood there, wrestling with his emotions, the voices of the crowd faint in comparison to the chaos churning in his heart. He glanced at Sarah, her face pale and strained. She seemed so distant now, a ghost of the girl he promised forever. Mark's eyes darted between Jake and Sarah, his expression a mix of shame and defiance. It was a tableau of heartbreak and betrayal, and it all felt like a nightmare he couldn't wake from. A loud laugh erupted nearby, jolting Jake back to the festival. He could almost taste the sweet cotton candy in the air, hear children screaming in delight as they rode the Ferris wheel. Yet, those sounds felt mocking now. The whole town was celebrating, oblivious to the storm raging in his life. He should have felt included in the joy, but instead, he felt like a specter haunting his own existence. In that instant, clarity struck him. He had a choice, a painful, monumental choice. Keeping his voice steady took every ounce of his strength. You think this is a game? That life is about sneaking around behind my back. The crowd held its breath, anticipation thickening the air. You two have to understand this isn't just about me. It's about our families, our friends, what we've built together. You've ripped apart something that can never be replaced. The silence that followed was deafening. Heads bobbed in agreement among the crowd, while whispers erupted behind him. He couldn't let the anger consume him entirely, not when the stakes were so high. The expectations felt like shackles on his soul, yet he fought back with every fiber of his being. Each passing moment felt like a weight on his conscience, a decision that would either tear apart further or try to weave back together what was broken. Jake could feel his pulse quicken, the fire of confrontation mixing with a flicker of hope. Could forgiveness truly be possible? Was it naive to even think about it? I don't want revenge. I don't want to tear you both down, he continued, surprising even himself with the revelation tumbling from his lips. But I can't pretend this isn't happening. We need to face this together. His words hung in the air like a thick fog. Jake's heart raced as he glanced toward Sarah. There was a flicker of something in her eyes, a glimmer of hope, perhaps, or maybe it was sheer despair. It all came crashing down on him. Their life together flashed in his mind, shared dreams, laughter, late-night talks. Could he really just throw it all away in the name of anger? The crowd's murmuring suggested varying opinions. Some supported him, while others questioned if he was being foolish. Jake felt the weight of judgment bearing down on him. Would forgiveness mean accepting betrayal? Or would opting for vengeance strip him of any remaining humanity? In that moment, he realized this struggle, this pain, was bigger than just Sarah and Mark. It was about his own journey. Did he want to be the person who tossed aside love when it became inconvenient? The very thought made his stomach twist. I need time to think, he finally said, voice cracking but firm. But I can't continue like this. Not like this. With that declaration, he turned and walked away, leaving behind the festival, the laughter, and the confused faces of those who knew and loved him. The cool evening air hit his face like a breath of fresh possibility. But inside, turmoil still churned, gnawing at him like an unwelcomed reminder of betrayal. As Jake stepped into the night, each footfall felt heavier. A decision loomed ahead, one that would shape the next chapter of his life. Could he really begin to heal from this? He didn't know. All he felt was an aching uncertainty weighing down his heart, posing a question he wasn't ready to answer just yet. But as shadows danced around him, something inside him stirred, an inkling of strength urging him to face the truth that awaited him. Would he find the courage to bridge the gap or let it widen until there was nothing left to save? The answer seemed just out of reach. The darkness enveloped Jake as he walked, each step echoing a mix of anger and defeat. He drifted away from the festival lights, the clamor fading into a dull hum. The warmth of the joy around him felt like salt in an open wound. With every breath, the reality of his situation settled deeper inside him, twisting tighter like a noose. He found himself at the park, a place he and Sarah had often visited, sharing ice cream and laughter. Now, all that echoed was silence, heavy and suffocating. He slumped onto a bench, the cold metal biting through the fabric of his jeans, grounding him. The stars blinked down from above, indifferent, as if challenging him to make sense of the mess his life had become. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a sharp reminder that the world hadn't stopped. He hesitated, not sure if he wanted to face whatever message waited for him. Finally, trepidation won over. He pulled it out, half expecting to see Sarah's name flashing on the screen. Instead, it was a text from his sister, asking if he was okay. His thumb hovered over the screen, but he didn't want to share yet. How could he explain the tangled knots in his heart? How could I possibly be okay? He whispered to himself, the words barely escaping his lips. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath. The air was crisp and bitter, filled with an anxiety that prickled at his skin. They say time heals all wounds, but what if that healing required more than just waiting? What if he needed to take an active role in it? Opening his eyes, he glanced around the park, searching for some clarity. A couple sat nearby, sharing intimate whispers and soft touches. It sent a pang through him, a stark reminder of the life he thought he knew. His heart tightened, and he fought the urge to look away. But then the weight of his internal conflict hit him hard. All he could think about were the moments he and Sarah had shared, the dreams they spoke of, the laughter that had once filled their days. Could he really throw all of that away? Or was there still a chance to rebuild? As the wind picked up, he felt a flicker of resolve. He pulled up Sarah's number, fingers shaking slightly. Just as he hovered over the call button, doubt crept in. What would he even say? "Hey, I've had a rough night, let us fix everything." It felt naive, maybe even foolish. But the thought of leaving things unresolved gnawed at him. He wanted to understand not just the why of it all, but the how they could potentially mend the cracks. He wanted to see if she felt the same urgency, the same need to confront the wreckage. With a newly ignited determination, he pressed the call button, heart pounding. The phone rang, and he felt each vibration resonate through him like a drumbeat. He was seconds away from taking a step into the unknown. But what if his breath caught, an overwhelming thought surfacing? What if she had already made her choice? As he anxiously waited, he felt a shift within himself, a dawning realization that facing this storm was inevitable. The answer could reshape everything, and perhaps, just perhaps, this moment might spark something deeper, something healing. The call cut through the silence as it connected, sparking a newfound hope in his chest. "Sarah," he began, heart racing, "can we talk?" And her voice on the other end held a mix of surprise and something else. Was it fear? With every heartbeat, a new chapter was about to unfold, one that would force him to face not just the turmoil of betrayal, but the depths of his own heart too. How would it change them both? Would they even recognize each other at the end of it? The answers felt just as tangled as the emotions that surrounded him. "Jake? Is that you?" Sarah's voice cut through the air, soft yet steady, and it took everything in him not to hang up right there. Hearing her was like a slap and a soothing balm at the same time. "Yeah, it's me," he replied, forcing a calmness into his voice that he didn't feel. I just needed to hear from you." There was a pause, just long enough for doubt to creep back in. "I didn't expect to hear from you tonight." Not after she trailed off, letting the silence fill the space, more telling than words. Right, after everything. He swallowed hard, the weight of the unspoken hanging between them. "I guess I shouldn't have called." No. "I'm glad you did," she quickly corrected, her tone getting slightly more reassuring, but Jake could sense the tremor of uncertainty in her voice. "It's just, complicated." Complicated. That felt like an understatement. "Can we meet?" he asked, urgency leaping into his words. "I think we need to talk this out face to face." "Okay." Another pause, and he could almost hear her weighing the decision. Where? The simplicity of her acceptance struck him. The park, where memories of happier times loomed large and ghosts lingered, was waiting for them. "Let us meet at our bench. The one by the old oak tree." There was a slight hitch in her breath, as if she was visualizing the spot just as vividly as he was. "I'll be there." As he hung up, Jake felt the chill of the night wrapping around him, but inside, a fire kindled. He'd thrown himself into the depths of despair, but maybe he could find a way back into the light, into some kind of resolution. The darkness didn't seem quite as suffocating with the promise of conversation in the air. The weight of his heart was still heavy, but now it had a purpose. He stood and began walking toward the bench. Each step was purposeful, an act of reclaiming his agency. He wasn't just a victim of circumstance, he was ready to face the truth, whatever it might be. As he approached the old oak, shadows stretched long along the path. Memories flickered in his mind, the sound of laughter, ice cream dripping on their knees, moments that felt invulnerable. But now, with each breath, he prepared to confront everything that had changed. A few minutes passed, and Jake found himself scanning the park, heart racing. The wind rustled the leaves overhead, creating a soft, whispering noise. Then he saw her, walking toward him, her silhouette almost ethereal under the moonlight. She looked different. The confidence he had known seemed diminished, replaced by vulnerability. Her hair caught the light, framing her face with a halo that made her look both beautiful and heart-wrenching. "Hey," Sarah said softly, stopping a few feet away. "Hey." The word hung between them, filled with unshared burdens. Jake felt a lump in his throat, words scrambling to get out, but all he could manage was a trip back in time. This feels like the start of something we never wanted." "It does," Sarah replied, her voice trembling. "But we can't fix it by pretending." He felt a sting of emotions, a mix of anger, love, and fear bubbling to the surface. "I don't want to pretend, Sarah. I want to know the truth." The moment stretched, taut with tension, heavy with the weight of all they had lost and all that was still possible. His heart raced, bracing for what was almost certain to come next. As she opened her mouth to speak, he could see the flicker of something in her eyes, a flicker that held both an apology and a story. Would this be their path to healing, or would it shatter them further? Jake inhaled deeply, steeling himself for the truth that was about to unfold. The air crackled with anticipation, and a question lingered: could the truth ultimately lead to the healing they both desperately needed? Sarah took a hesitant step closer, her eyes locked on his, searching for something in his face. Jake's heart raced with an urgency he'd never felt before. This was at the moment that could change everything. "Jake," she began, her voice breaking slightly. "I didn't want you to hear it from anyone else. I thought it would be easier if I just tell me," he interjected softly, the plea escaping him before he could stop it. "I need to know the truth from you." Her gaze dropped to the ground for a moment, and he felt the weight of her silence. It was heavy, as if each second stretched out into an eternity. When her eyes finally met his again, they were shimmering with unshed tears. "It's about Mark." She said his name like a whisper, filling it with the gravity of what was unsaid. Jake's heart sank, confusion and dread swirling within him. "What about him?" Okay, I need to be honest. There was something between us. It happened during that rough patch we had when things were falling apart." The air felt thick and oppressive, each word slipping through the cracks of his heart. He had suspected, had seen the flickers of something off in their dynamic. But hearing it now, laid bare, felt like a punch in the gut. "How could you?" I know it was wrong," she rushed to explain, her voice rising with emotion, desperate for him to understand. "But it was like that at first. It was comfort, Jake. It started with a shared moment of vulnerability I thought I lost with you. It spiraled out of control." His body felt frozen, a flurry of emotions raging within him. Love for her, anger at her betrayal, and a deep-seated need for answers clawed at him. He took a step back, needing space to breathe. "And you thought hiding it was better? Just making it worse?" "No," she exclaimed, shaking her head. "I thought I could fix it on my own. I thought if I kept it inside, if I could make things normal again, it would just vanish." "Normal? You think anything can be normal after that?" The edge in his voice surprised even him, but he couldn't stifle the hurt that anchored him. "It wasn't all about him, Jake. It was about me and my own failures." She cried, her voice cracking, the tears finally spilling down her cheeks. The sight of her pain, raw and real, tore at him. He clenched his fists, fighting the wave of conflicting emotions. He couldn't just throw it all away, could he? What do we do now, Sarah? The question hung heavy in the air. She wiped her face, taking a shaky breath. I don't know. But I want to try to show you that it's worth fighting for. Jake searched her face for any sign of insincerity but found only desperation and fear. The vulnerability of their connection so fragile, yet somehow still sparkled with hope tempted him to consider the impossible. Can we rebuild this? He asked, his voice trembling. After everything? She stepped closer, anguish and determination mixing in her eyes. Yes, but it won't be easy. We have to face everything, together. Together. The word brought warmth to his heart, yet fear gripped his insides. Would they risk it all for something that may have fractured beyond repair? A silence enveloped them, the possibilities dancing in the air, shimmering like a mirage. Would love rise anew from such betrayal, or would it simply wither away, leaving them both hollow? The question loomed, heavy and unresolved in the night air, leaving Jake's heart aching for things yet to be decided. But he knew one thing, they'd have to confront the feelings buried deep if they wanted a way forward. And as he looked at Sarah, the flicker of hope battling with the pain in his chest, he realized there would be no easy answers, just a difficult journey ahead. Would they have the courage to take that journey together? Jake stood there, heart racing, confused and trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. The night felt colder, the shadows around them seeming somehow deeper. As he looked at Sarah, he searched for anything he could cling to, a sign, a spark of the love that had once brightened their lives. But doubt clouded his vision. I'll need time, he finally said, the words heavy in the silence between them. I need to think. Her face fell, but he could see the fight in her. I understand. Just promise me you won't shut me out completely. He wanted to promise her that, wanted to believe they could repair this, but the anger was still too fresh, too raw. I'll try, he offered, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah nodded, her hands digging into her pockets as if to keep herself grounded. Okay, I can work with that. As they stood there, every second stretched painfully. Jake felt an impulse to reach out and console her, to bridge the chasm that had suddenly opened between them. But the betrayal loomed larger than any comforting gesture he might offer. Do you love him? The words slipped out before he could stop himself, and he braced for her answer. Her eyes widened, shock running through her. No. It was never about that. Then what was it about? He interrupted, his heart pounding as vulnerability tore through his facade. Was it just loneliness? Were you looking for something I wasn't giving to you? She inhaled sharply, her expression revealing the assault of emotions she was grappling with. It was a mistake, Jake. I thought I could distract myself, find solace instead of facing our problems. But it just led me deeper into a pit. I was desperate, and it wasn't fair to either of you. I see that now. Jake closed his eyes, feeling like he was sinking, unable to breathe. The memories of their laughter, their late-night talks, and the dreams they had built felt distant. So where do we go from here? He finally asked, the words catching in his throat. I want us to confront what happened, she responded, urgency filling her voice. Not just the affair but everything that led up to it. We have to admit our flaws and face our fears. It's the only way forward. He shook his head, frustration bubbling within him. You didn't just betray me, Sarah. You broke our trust. And I don't know how to rebuild that. A tear slid down her cheek, and instinctively, he wanted to reach out. But he didn't. I know I messed up, she said, her voice shaking. But that moment with Mark, it's not who I am. You have to believe that. But it is part of who you are now, he countered, pain lacing each syllable. That's the problem. This will always be a part of us. A heavy silence filled the gap between them, thick and almost suffocating. It was too much to unpack. He felt himself wavering, longing to go back to easier days. Days when they talked about their future, when small gestures of kindness filled their lives. "Please, Jake," she begged, stepping toward him again. "I don't just want to repair what was lost, I want to grow together. I believe we can be more than what we were before this." He looked deep into her eyes, searching for that flicker of hope he felt earlier, trying to grasp her unwavering determination. "How?" was all he could muster. "I don't know yet," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper, filled with uncertainty. "But we can start with honesty, with open hearts. I'm willing to fight for this, for you, for us. Don't you see?" Jake swallowed hard, his mind racing with possibilities and roadblocks. "What does fighting for us look like, Sarah?" He finally ventured, knowing full well the answer wouldn't come easy. "I don't know," she said, her voice tremulous. "But I believe we can figure it out if we do it together." Together. The word echoed in his mind, mixing a strange concoction of hope with lingering doubt. As he weighed her words against the hurt, he realized the battle for their love had only just begun. But did he have the strength to confront his demons alongside her? Would their love stand the tests yet to come? That question loomed like a dark cloud over the horizon, the answer still hidden away, waiting to be discovered. The night wore on, each minute stretching painfully as Jake contemplated Sarah's words. The cool air wrapped around him, tinged with the weight of unresolved issues. He could feel the tension radiating between them, a live wire just waiting to snap. "Okay," he said finally, his voice steady but uncertain. "Let us talk. Open hearts and honesty, right?" Sarah nodded, relief flickering briefly across her features. It was a small victory, but one they desperately needed. "I want to start with you. How did you feel when you found out?" Her question hit him like a punch to the gut. He hesitated, the truth swirling in his mind like a tempest. "I felt betrayed, like I was blindsided. The trust we had, it just shattered." Tears brimmed in her eyes again, and Jake briefly saw fragments of the love he once cherished. "I never wanted to hurt you, Jake. I was scared and struggling, and I made the worst choice to cope with everything." "Scared of what?" he pressed, feeling anger bubble beneath his calm facade. "Scared of us? Or scared of the relationship we built?" She cringed, every question feeling like a dagger. "It was more complicated than I imagined. I was afraid that if we faced our problems, we'd realize we weren't strong enough to handle them. I thought running away, if only for a moment, would help me help us." Jake's heart ached as he remembered all the nights they spent talking about their dreams, their fears. Was he really that distant? But instead, you ran into someone else's arms. It was a moment of weakness, Jake. A moment of weakness. Those words hung in the air, heavy and demeaning. It paralyzed him, forcing him to confront a truth he wasn't ready to accept. A moment that changed everything. "Yes," she whispered, her gaze fixed on the ground. "But can't we learn from it? I want to be better, for myself, and for you." His chest constricted, the nagging doubt clawing at his mind. "And what if you don't? What if this moment of weakness is the real you?" "Jake," she started but faltered. "I know I've hurt you deeply, and I can't change that. All I can do is ask for a chance to show you how much I care." He took a deep breath, clenching his fists to keep from lashing out. How much could he endure? Was forgiveness something to be earned or given freely? What if I can't do it? Her eyes glistened with tears, a mirror of his turmoil. "Then I'll fight for your trust, no matter how long it takes." Jake glanced at the moonlit sky, searching for clarity. Inside, he felt a flicker of something. Could it be hope? But it was buried beneath layers of hurt. "I don't know how to trust you again, Sarah." The night felt alive with uncertainty as they shared silence once more, both holding the weight of their honest exchange. Each lost moment echoed with a muted longing for what had been before whispers turned into shouts and love became pain. As the wind rustled the leaves, he contemplated the road ahead, one that could lead to a refreshed connection or a painful parting. Was he ready to venture down that path with her? The question lingered, a haunting reminder of their fragile crossroads. What would it take for them to rebuild? Suddenly, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her back from the emotional fog enveloping them. Jake watched her pull it out, puzzled by the sudden shift. The glow of the screen reflected a mix of urgency and fear across her face, making his heart race again as he wondered what could be so important now. "Who is it?" he asked, tension curling in his stomach. She hesitated, glancing from the phone to his eyes. The moment hung in the air, a sharp contrast to the vulnerability they had just shared. "It's Mark." Jake felt the ground beneath him tremble. How could she allow him back into their lives now? The implications of that moment felt monumental, as he prepared for a revelation that could unravel everything they'd just tried to mend. What did Mark want? Sarah's thumb hovered over the screen, each second stretching longer than the last. Jake watched her face transform through a whirlwind of emotions: fear, guilt, and an undeniable flicker of concern. He could almost see each thought cascading through her mind, the dread of what Mark might say, the fear of how that would reverberate between them. "Answer it," he urged, his voice betraying the mix of anger and trepidation knotting his stomach. "We need to know what this is about." Her breath hitched as she made the decision, swiping the screen to accept the call. Jake felt the air thicken, heavy with unspoken words. Sarah's voice quavered slightly as she greeted Mark. "Hi, yes, I immediately." He tuned out her conversation, focusing instead on the trees swaying lightly in the evening breeze. Hadn't they just agreed to bare their souls? And now her past was creeping back with an even sharper edge, threatening to cut their tenuous bond apart once and for all. Mark's voice, muffled on the other end, filled the space between them. He could sense Sarah's unease increasing, the way her body tensed and the glisten of sweat on her brow. Something wasn't right, and deep inside, Jake felt a primal urge to protect himself away from whatever this was leading to. "Yes, I know," Sarah said in a whisper, then glanced at Jake, her eyes filled with an urgency that made his heart race. He stepped closer, feeling an overwhelming need to be part of this conversation, but she held her palm up as if to block him out, reaching for something more private. That gesture stung more than he expected. What was happening that she couldn't share with him? The gut instincts he fought to silence flared back up, and he felt the walls around his heart begin to rebuild. "I understand," she continued, a catch in her throat. "But this isn't the time Jake and I are working on things. You can't just." Her voice trailed off, and she closed her eyes, squeezing them shut as if the action could wipe Mark from existence. Jake stepped back, feeling small as betrayal layered over betrayal, the very foundation of their relationship threatened. The trust he had fought so hard to re-establish was slipping away as her gaze shifted back between him and the phone. "Leave," she pleaded, her voice a whisper now. "But you can't just show up. It'll hurt him more." She sighed heavily, and the heartbreak etched in her features dug deeper into him. "I'll call you back." The call ended, and she turned to face him, anguish flooding her expression. "Jake, it was about what? About Mark thinking he can waltz back into our lives." His voice was sharper than he intended, but the hurt and confusion demanded release. "You said you wanted to fight for our trust, yet you allow him to barge in at the worst possible moment. Stop." She snapped back, frustration boiling in her voice. "You think this is easy for me? Do you think I want to keep having this conversation?" Jake felt foolish for the anger flaring up. Of course, she didn't want this. But it felt like Mark was a shadow they couldn't shake, a constant reminder of her choices. "Then tell me why," he called, Jake pressed, his heart racing as he reached a crossroads of his own. "What does he want from you?" She ran her fingers through her hair, her expression suddenly distant. "I can't tell you," she murmured, voice cracking. "Because I don't know." The uncertainty sent a tremor down his spine. In that moment, they both faced a precipice. Would they take a step forward, or would this surge of old wounds push them apart? "Jake, I want to make this work," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, desperation flickering tantalizingly in her eyes. He took a step closer, barely breathing. "Then we need to talk about what he means to you and what this really is." The uncertainty hung there, vibrant and tangible, a dangling thread that could unravel everything. Suddenly, the phone buzzed on the ground, sending a jolt through both of them. Sarah looked down, panic creeping back into her features. "Another message from Mark," she whispered, fear reflecting in her eyes. As she bent to pick up the phone, Jake's heart thudded ominously in his chest. What if this was the message that changed everything? What if it had the power to either heal or completely destroy what little glimmer of hope remained? He braced himself for the storm about to hit. Sarah's hands trembled as she grasped her phone, her eyes wide with apprehension. The screen glowed under the evening light, each message indicator seeming to pulse with an urgency that mirrored the chaos inside her. "Read it," Jake said, his tone flat, the rawness of the moment pulling them further apart. Every second felt like a countdown, each tick amplifying the doubt gnawing at his resolve. Slowly, Sarah opened the message, her expression shifting as if shadows were creeping across her face. It's just him asking about the plans for next week," she stammered, but Jake could see through her words. Her eyes flickered with something unsaid, something that ignited his frustration anew. "What plans?" He stepped closer again, his body tight with tension. "What are you not telling me?" "Jake," she implored, her voice wavering, but then she caught herself and straightened. There was a fire behind her fear, something fierce emerging from the depths. "I can't keep going back and forth. You need to understand that I don't want to hide." "Then don't," he shot back, the heat of their argument kindling into fierce desperation. "Tell me, Sarah. Be honest with me for once." "I'm trying." She took a breath, steadying herself. "Mark is trying to remain in my life, in some capacity. But I told him I need to focus on us." Doesn't he understand? You think that makes it better?" Jake's heart sank as he spoke. "Do you realize how this looks? That he can just charge back in and you'll still entertain his excuses?" The vulnerability pressed against him, though he fought against it furiously. "I'm not entertaining anything," she shouted, and for a moment, her outburst shocked him into silence. Her cheeks flushed, and he saw the very real anger alongside her heartbreak. "He's persistent. But I want you, Jake. I swear, I'm not going back to that. Please believe me." Her vulnerability reached him, slashing through the fog of anger. He wanted to believe her, to trust in her promise of devotion. But a whisper of doubt still clung to the edges of his mind. "Then why do I feel like I'm losing you?" he asked, his voice softer now but heavy with fear. "Because of my past." Her face fell, layers of fear peeling back until only raw emotion remained. "It scares me too. I don't want this to ruin us. But Mark, he was part of my life before. It's not that simple. I need to set boundaries, but it's hard." Jake turned away, staring into the darkness that loomed around them. It felt inescapable, the weight of the past crashing against the fragile structure of their relationship. The thought of Mark spooling back into their lives felt like seeing a bright light after long, torturous years of darkness. Did he have the strength to fight that battle over again? "Tell me what you need from me, Sarah," he murmured, half hoping she'd say it was as simple as trusting her to make the right decisions. "What can I do to convince you that we're worth fighting for?" There was a stillness, a moment of silence where both of them teetered on the edge of despair and hope. Jake scanned her face, searching for the truth, for any sign that she would choose him, pick him over Mark. I don't know," she whispered, her voice cracking like glass. "I want to be honest, but the shadows of my past keep creeping in. I need to face this, and I need you by my side." Heat pooled in Jake's chest, anger and fear intertwining as he felt her sincerity, yet uncertainty still twisted within. Could they really dig themselves out of this? The thought loomed heavy. But then, just as the tension reached its peak, the phone buzzed again, the sound cutting through like a knife. "Another one," she said, eyes darting to the screen in a mix of dread and resignation. Something in her posture shifted, nerves sparking back to life. Jake clenched his fists, a weight settling in his stomach as a profound unease settled. "Sarah, I have to," she said, more to herself than to him, and raised the phone to her ear again, sparking the next storm on the horizon. That moment, the air thick with uncertainty, he realized this was only beginning. They were not just facing Mark, they were confronting a past that was ready to engulf everything they'd built. He needed to decide if he would stand and fight or walk away before the fire consumed him. As she spoke, half listening and half trapped in his thoughts, he found himself wondering, what would it take for Sarah to finally choose him? What would it mean if she didn't? The night felt like an eternity, thick with unresolved emotions and lingering shadows. Jake watched as Sarah's face flickered between desperation and determination, and he realized they were both standing on a precipice. The reality of their situation washed over him with a fresh wave, as though the moments they had spent grappling with the past were about to spiral into something he couldn't control. "Sarah," he said, frustration bubbling over again. "You need to understand where I'm coming from. It's not just about what happened, it's about how we move forward. I feel like I'm losing you to a past that would rather keep you than let you go." Her eyes locked onto his, fierce but vulnerable. "You're not losing me, Jake. I'm right here. But I need you to trust me to fight through this. I can't shut Mark out completely, not when there are loose ends." "Loose ends?" Jake's voice ricocheted through the darkness, almost painful in its intensity. "You can't let him have a foothold in our lives while we're trying to rebuild ours. You've got to put boundaries, else we'll keep circling back to this pain." Sarah chewed her lip, struggle evident on her face. "You don't get it. Mark's a part of my story before we were even together. I thought I left him behind, but now, he keeps resurfacing. It's a reflection of my past choices, and I don't know how to erase that." Pain rippled through Jake's chest, mixing with anger. The betrayal was still fresh, but alongside it was a dawning realization, her past was a fabric they both needed to untangle. He took a deep breath, trying to strangle the rising tide of emotions. "So what do we do? Forgive him and act like he never came between us?" "No." The word fell from Sarah's lips, imbued with conviction. "I wouldn't expect that from you either, because it's not what I want. I want to confront this together." The trembling sincerity in her eyes quieted his rising storm. Could confrontation be the key? He studied her, longing to see beyond the tears and turmoil to the woman he had fallen in love with. Time stretched around them, each second heavy with the weight of possibility. "Then let us lay it all out there," Jake said, his voice steadier now. "Let us talk about who we are right now, what we truly mean to each other, without Mark hanging over our heads." The tension in Sarah's shoulders eased slightly as she nodded, a flicker of hope igniting between them. "Okay," she said softly. "But I need you to be honest with me too. We both can't keep hiding behind our fears. Then here goes. I'm scared. Scared that this shadow of Mark will always loom large. Scared of rebuilding trust when it's been broken so deeply." He took a step closer, feeling a connection pulling them together. "But what scares me more is losing you entirely. I don't want to walk away without giving us a chance." Her gaze softened, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't want to lose you either, Jake. Can we try to build a stronger foundation? Be open about everything, even the messy stuff." "I'll try," he promised, feeling the bindings of their hurt loosen just a little. "But I need you to promise me that you'll let go of Mark. Completely." Sarah inhaled sharply, a moment of conflict crossing her features. "I want to, I just know buts, Sarah. We can't keep him in our lives and expect to rebuild." The words resonated, firm in his belief that trusting would require sacrifice. She looked down, and he could see the weight of her internal struggle holding her captive. "It's hard, Jake. I know you're asking me to make a big decision." "It is hard," he agreed, stepping forward and taking her hand. "But it's necessary. If we want a future, we have to cut the ties to the past that hold us back." In his grip, there was a current of warmth, a flicker of the connection they once shared. "I wish I could tell you it was the easiest thing to do." Her voice trembled. "But I have to try for us. Then let us do this together. Let us put the work in," he said, squeezing her hand. "We can figure this out. I believe that love can arise from ashes if we want it badly enough." Jake could see the fight reigniting in her eyes, a reflection of determination underpinning fragile hope. "Together," she replied, an unexpected smile breaking through the tears that had stained her cheeks. The warmth of that smile filled him with something he thought he might have lost for good, and he felt a flicker of light piercing through the darkness. They spent the next moments laying their cards on the table, sharing their fears, their vulnerabilities, the stories they had never fully told each other. As they spoke, together they began sketching out a plan for reconciliation, one rooted in trust and a willingness to confront the past head-on. Through it all, Jake had an epiphany. This wasn't just about Mark. It was about their willingness to fight for what they had built and to embrace all the imperfections that came with love. It would require effort, a patchwork of events and emotions filled with missteps, but not impossible. As the first rays of dawn broke on the horizon, they sat together, still whispering promises, breathing life into their fragile connection. It was a new beginning, a leap straddling faith and fear, but deeply rooted in their shared desire for something beautiful. With a radiant smile breaking through the remnants of pain, Jake took a deep breath. They were still standing side by side, two souls willing to fight for their love amongst a world that had tried to tear them apart. As they faced the sunrise together, Jake realized that the journey ahead would be tough, but they would do it together, redefining love and trust, one day at a time. And just like that, with the dawn shedding light upon a path yet to be traveled, hope blossomed anew. Now, if you felt the power of transformation through this story, you need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive journey. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find these incredible stories. And don't forget to comment below your feelings about this emotional conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread this inspiring message. True fans understand the power of community, and it starts with you.